Welcome to Pallilo Points. I'm Brandon Strange. He's Charlie Pallilo of ESPN Houston's The Press Box. Charlie, welcome in. The Texans have won 2 games in a row, and 2 out of their next 3 are against the Colts, so it's playoff time in Houston. Obviously, the Texans are in a hole, but I'm looking at the schedule, and it's not probable, but it's also not impossible that the Texans could sneak into that second wild card spot. So I want to talk to you about that. I actually want to talk about the implications of a possible playoff run. But before we dive into that, first things first, what will it take for the Texans to crawl into that wild card spot?
Is this not the season of miracles, actual or alleged? It starts with, obviously, they have to win out, right? The very best the Texans can do is 9-7. There's a good shot. If somehow they pull that off, they still don't make the playoffs. There are 5 teams who you'd consider the legit wild card cluster for the 3 AFC wild card spots now, right? The 1 additional holds out some hope for the Texans. Cleveland's 8-3. The Browns could borderline collapse and still get in. They hold the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Texans, even if they collapse. Then you have the Colts, who are leaking a little oil, getting drilled by the Titans over the weekend. And the fact that the Texans play the Colts twice in their next 3 games, should the Texans win both, they would take that head-to-head tiebreaker. Lost to the Ravens, who are somehow, the Ravens! They get to 9-7. The Texans can't top that. The Ravens win the head-to-head. So for starters, the Texans have to win out. Beat the Colts twice. Do have a game with the Titans. The 2 other games, you're thinking, all right, the Bengals and the Bears are no good. But even if that happens, they're going to need a lot of help. I mean, the Raiders somehow losing 43-6 to the Falcons. Maybe a collapse is on for the Raiders. And hey, that's a head-to-head tiebreaker the Texans haven't lost. But the Raiders have a game left against the Dolphins, who are 7-4. So 2 teams, presently 3 and 2 games ahead of the Texans. One of them has to win that game. So it would just be an extreme collection of events. I mean, tumblers clicking into place and then some, hitting the right number on the roulette wheel like 3 times in a row for the Texans to make the playoffs. So yes, we're saying there's a chance, as infinitesimal as it might be.
I definitely can't keep track off the top of my head here. I'll try. There's 4 or 5 coaching jobs that are probably going to be open at the, maybe even more, at the end of the year. And off the top of my head, I definitely don't know how many GM opportunities there are going to be in the league. Does a deep playoff run here really kind of help attract the next potential set of GM and coaching candidates?
Well, Deshaun Watson is the linchpin of the Texans' recruiting efforts. To me, the first year on the job for the next head coach and GM, it's almost a redshirt year, to borrow from the collegiate ranks, given the Texans' salary cap mess that they should spend this offseason cleaning up, absorb all the dead money from bad contracts, not all bad players. I mean, Whitney Merciless isn't a horrible player. He's horribly overpaid because of Bill O'Brien. Same with Bernardrick McKinney. Really, same with Zach Cunningham before his extension even kicks in. So I don't think they're going to cut Cunningham, but Merciless has to go. McKinney has to go. There is book cleaning that has to occur, and that will inhibit your ability to fill out your roster with quality for 2021, compounded, of course, by not having a first-round pick or a second-round pick. The general manager, look, head coach hire is obviously very important. Where the Texans are, the GM hire by multiples is the more important hire. Deshaun Watson's very attractive, but he's not a total knockout over, say, the Chargers with what Justin Herbert is showing as a rookie. If you are the Jets, if you are Jacksonville and you get the first-round pick, and as a GM candidate, you really buy into Trevor Lawrence, the Clemson quarterback, the presumptive overall number 1, or even secondarily, if you're picking second, number 2, Justin Fields, the quarterback, Ohio State. Of course, you'd rather have Deshaun Watson than either of those guys for 2021, 2022. Beyond that, well, it becomes a matter of taste coupled with performance. And those guys are going to be a lot cheaper than Deshaun Watson, who's already to his second contract about to kick in. And what you're able to do around him on the roster over the next 4 or 5 years, much lower than you'll be able to do with a rookie quarterback, even a high first-round pick, but at a much lower salary for several seasons. Jacksonville specifically has 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks in the upcoming draft. The Texans right now have Bupkis in those rounds. The Jets seem a toxic disaster. They actually have a handful of players that you'd say, okay, not the star-level nucleus guys. they need to get that quarterback, but their salary cap sheet, much cleaner than the Texans. So the Texans, and I understand why their name is mud to so many. It's not a gutter job because you have Deshaun Watson, and this is an appealing market. And while the Titans and Colts are both good, they're not superpowers that you're sentenced to being behind for 8 or 10 years. But it's not the pick of the litter job because of Deshaun Watson, because of the salary cap, because of the draft situation, the other variables.
That is something I want to dig into because I think that's an interesting point, is the desirability of the job. What do you think about where this team ranks as an opportunity for potential GMs and coaches?
Yeah, I think as a franchise, they're thought of pretty generically. This is their 19th season. They've never gotten to a conference championship game. They've never sustained anything remotely top tier, where I'm saying top 5, top 6 type of franchise in the NFL. And while they emptied the litter box and O'Brien out, there's still some stink attached to that. But while this rings hollow and the division wasn't stacked for all 5 years, they did win 4 division championships in the 5 prior seasons, right? The Texans, while they've never achieved at the high level, and over time, certainly over 19 years, you'd like to judge from the top down and say, hey, we were really close to the top, as opposed to, well, very rarely and over no extended period were we near the bottom. But you think of franchises like the Saints, who for 30 years were the Aints. The Colts in the early 80s were the Dolts. The Buccaneers were the Yuccaneers. Right? We've never had a 4 or 5 year stretch where you think if you didn't wear a bag over your head of the game, you should be embarrassed as a Texans fan being there. So their bounce back up toward being decent, there's nothing in their history that says, oh, when they're down, it's 5-7 years, they're complete garbage. It's never happened in the history of the franchise. But Cal McNair is new. I don't think there should be fear of the unknown because it's not like you busted up a dynasty in getting O'Brien out as head coach and general manager. Jack Easterby may only right now answer to Cal McNair and God. No GM coming in, at least one you want to hire, will be reporting to Jack Easterby. So I think while patience may not be a virtue for many fans, it's not for me in life, you need to see who they hire, how well credentialed he is. And you know what? You can hire someone who's wonderfully credentialed and he falls on his face, or you can hire some unknown, who's this guy, who goes on to kill it. You look at the Falcons 3 years ago, through 3 quarters of that Super Bowl, head coach Dan Quinn, general manager Thomas Dimitroff, they were the toast of the town in Atlanta. Well, now 3 years later, they were the village idiots who needed to be fired mid-season with the Falcons. So the Texans are just overdue to have at least a 2-3 year run where you're thinking they're a bona fide Super Bowl contender, an AFC championship contender. If they don't get the GM hire right, they're going to be the hamster running on that wheel where the Super Bowl's not even in the cage, the way it's been for now 19 seasons and counting. But we need to see who they hire to fairly judge what Cal McNair does the first time riding the bike without the training wheels.